Hi. If you're into subjects like spirituality and seeing things from a scientific point of view, you may have read that we are made up of uh, five kosha or sheaths. So, if it has confused you, it has confused me initially. Or if you've just taken things exactly as it is presented to you and you have not questioned things, that's that's all right. I did question things, and I'm making this video to simplify things according to my perspective. Is it the last word? Obviously not. Nothing is the last word when it comes to the world of spirituality. You can always add up things until you think it completely fits into the mold of something that is viable, something that makes sense, something that fits basically in your head. So what I used to think was that when they spoke about five sheaths or layers or kosher that a human or any basically any living being is made of, I used to think I mean the kind of image that I had got in my mind was of earth that had layers, that had the upper crust, um, that had the core, the molten uh, layer. We had that. Then we had, there were several layers basically, right? So I don't remember it right now. As soon as I started speaking, I forgot about it. So, but I have it in my head. Like you've got your crust, then you've got your big rocks, then you have your a lot of silica, and then you have your molten state layer. I don't remember the technical name that it had, but we had in our geography books, like you had in your geography books. So my core objective here is to talk about these sheaths, and I was so wrong in drawing comparison to the Earth's layers, the soil and everything else that I just spoke about, because the perspective that I'm seeing things, the perspective from which I'm seeing things now make more sense. And here we are, my signature style of making illustrations, because that's how I understand things better. Until unless I start drawing things and then start explaining me things, I don't understand. So you have to be your own guru and your own disciple. You have to question, you have to answer, and you could do the same if it suits you. You could imbibe some other approach. So fine. So what is usually told to us is that the outermost layer is annamaya kosh. Then you have pranam annamaya or food sheath, right? Then pranamaya, breath or life force sheath. Then you have your manamaya, that is mind, sheath of mind that keeps changing, something that we connect to water, liquid. Okay. Then you have your Vijnanamaya Kosh, that's intelligence. And then finally, the innermost core is of Anandamaya, that's bliss. So when I used to think, how does it, like, is it like, if it is like those layers, it's so easy to find where that bliss thing is, where that, so the upper, when you remove the upper sheath, you get into the pranamaya, and pranamaya, that's life force sheath. Then when you remove or peel off the, not literally, when you peel off your life force sheath, then you come to a point where you have your mind sheath or manomaya, and then you come to a point where you see intelligence, and then you see bliss. But it doesn't work like that. Let's say, um, here is the first living cell. Now living cell, as we all know, is made up of uh, carbohydrates, unlike hydrocarbons that are dead cells actually not dead cells, yeah, dead cells, but when the living beings die and they decompose with years of fossilization, if there is a word like this, it turns into hydrocarbons. So carbohydrates is the same thing. Is you have your carbon, you have your hydrogen, you also have oxygen in a certain proportion, C6, H12O6 kind of a thing. That's sugar. So it's pure energy in that form. And then you have your nucleic acid. Nucleic acid is what one that looks like sugar. So what looks like sugar in the sense transparent, and it's chain like. You have to have chain like structure in the DNA, which sits in the nucleus of the living cells. Then you ought to have lipids, because lipids would stop outside forces to enter, pretty much like how you apply your moisturizer or winter cream, so that you don't want air to suck away the moisture of your skin. Okay, and then you have proteins give structure. So how much expansion will a living being have will depend on the nature and tendency, uh, potency of protein that's there in the living cells. So it's all the information about how much a person would grow. So these are the components, and the permutation combination of which would decide how the living being would be. So once a living cell is formed, what happens? There is centripetal force, that is something that pushes all the matter inside the pit, centripetal, and a force that would throw everything out, like the centrifugal force. Just a minute. Okay, so that's that. And there would be an equilibrium established at some point in time, where a stable but moving cell is formed. All cells will be moving, because and all moving cells would make a living being. If the cells get static, you have your organism in a static mode, which is basically is equal to dead. So you got to have them rotating or moving or spinning like earth all round things in order for it to be called a living being. That's why earth is also called a living entity, and that's why it also has a pulse. So if it is moving at if you and what are the parameters of its movement? That's pulse. All right, so when it starts disintegrating into two cells, two into four cells, four into eight cells, eight into 16 cells, and so on, what happens? The outermost boundary will get solidified, and that's actually, it's all nutrient what we eat, because all things that I mentioned, the components, are actually what we eat in our food. So it transforms itself in the absorbable form, and a boundary is made, and when it comes into contact with outer forces or air, it solidifies to an extent, and that's that's why yeah, that's why the skin. All right, so it is what it is, right? After that, there has to be just below, just underneath the skin, there has to be some pranamaya force, that's life force, which is just not air, of course, because it's moving. There also has to be photons, that's which is light, because when sun's light falls on any object, it reflects a bit of light, absorbs the rest of it. All living organisms, they seem to be more luminous than non-living beings. Then rock, when you compare it with rock, there is a luminosity, and this life force is greatest in young people, right? And there is air also, a combination of the two, that's photons, energized photons, of sun, and then there is air, which is which makes the liquid inside the cell also move, which is why you have, when the because of the air winds, there is current in water, in oceans also. So if you want your blood to flow, it can flow because of two reasons: first, gravity, anti-gravity force, and also because of the pranamaya force that surrounds the liquid inside it, inside the living entity. And after which, so this is, and the level, amount of current would decide what's our emotion like, because it's emotions is equal to the current in the current in the liquids in our body. That's why the current, when it gets high during full moon or new moon, one tends to feel more, one gets triggered by things. And when you see slightly lazy people, you will also find the blood circulation or the blood pressure is low. You see a lot of people with a lot of rajas quality, that's fire element, there is greater blood pressure. All right, so there, now we talk about the nucleus. Inside this nucleus, so you, this the outermost, again, the outermost is the solid, the crusty form of boundary is annamaya, that's fed by the food. Then you have your pranamaya or photons plus air, then you have the liquids, and then again, because of the centripetal force, there is a bit of matter in the center. It has DNA and RNA. RNA manufactures manufactures things as the given. No, no, let me rephrase it. RNA carries out the instructions that is given by DNA. So DNA is, let's say, ROM is it called, the read-only memory of computers that can't be changed, and RNA could be seen as RAM, something that can be altered from time to time. So it's just not outermost layer. Everything in the body is made up of these everything in the body is made up of these layers in this form. All right, so the outermost layer, which segregates us from the world, the polythene kind of a thing, the polymer, that's you would see are just directly connected to our survival. So whenever we are striving for our survival, something below our gut feels heavy. So that's the chakra that we are talking about. All right, so this is just a part of it, and something which is connected to our luminosity, our life force, that's sacral chakra. Something that's connected to our emotions, heart chakra. Something that's good, as we say, of course, below heart chakra is solar plexus, which is like fire in the belly, ambition. All right, so let's just say when we are talking about the outermost level, layer, sheath, we are talking about our needs. We are talking about our needs. When we are talking about the sacral chakra, which is a congregation of uh, mm, which is a congregation, no, let's say, which is a factory of cells and force units that would decide our luminosity, our desire for expansion. That's our desire. And then the fire in the belly, that's a factory that makes ambition cells, that's which is actually that propel you. Then the seat of emotion is heart, because you would feel it when you feel sad for a prolonged period of time. You'll start experiencing pain in the heart. And that's also because its heart is responsible for the liquids in the body. Liquid, that's blood. So that's emotions. And then if you're sad or happy and you're not if you and you don't get a chance to express yourself, basically, when especially when you're sad, then you feel a lump in your throat. So expression is throat chakra. So starting from the beginning, your needs would be decided by a factory below your gut, your desires by in the almost in the same region, in the belly, ambition, in the heart, emotions, expression, in the throat chakra, and they say intuition in the third eye. So what I have felt on a personal level is that third eye is the meeting point of the left and the right brain. It's like a river that converges in one point. uh, that's why it's activated, and you get all the free waves, energy waves entering into your head. They are like waves of river or ocean, and they flow or converge into a point which is third eye. From third eye it gets filtered and travels in your spinal cord. And the subtle part of the, not the spinal cord, there is a subtle conduit in this spinal cord, and it ends in the gut. So you feel your intuition in the gut, for because these are the waves that enter into your head and it reaches your gut. Every time we experience something, its memory is saved in the cells of the body. And just like what happens in the world of internet, there is a cloud server. So when you download something, here in our bodies, about body's reference, when we experience something and something gets downloaded in all the cells, something gets downloaded in the cloud also. So our experiences get stored at twin places, pretty much like in our computers. And just like inner planets would decide about only our experiences, so our personal cloud will have a copy. Will Our personal cloud will have a copy of our experiences. There is a cloud above that, higher, which has a copy of all the living organisms' experience. Everything that has been downloaded in every generation gets downloaded here also. There must be clouds above also. They say there are 14 clouds, 7 up, 7 down. So my interest in all this was to find about intuitions. Do I get intuitive? I get it in flash very rarely, but sometimes I get it. So maybe I need to work on it. Maybe I need to work on it. But this thing is clear to me that if I need to work on it, I need to strengthen this particular uh, pathway from my forehead until my gut, and believe in the process. Pray to the universe that that things get easier. I'm able to interpret things and make changes if I can, if there is a need to, and surrender when there is a need to surrender. Yeah. All right. That's pretty much it from my side on this topic today. If it is meant to mean, if this particular video is meant to reach any specific uh, group of people, it will. Bye.